Hey, Grant.
Morning.
Oh, the internet at the church still isn't working.
You're connected.
Yeah,
Hello.
I used my telephone hotspot to connect. Hello, Milton.
Good morning.
Hello, Charlene.
Morning.
How's the weather outside?
Well, it's sunshiny, a little breezy.
I think it's chilly.
Yeah, I don't know the temperature. I walked out a little bit ago, but I wasn't out very long. I've had a crazy morning.
Facebook today, page 1 of 7. Siri search. Home, page weather. Double tap to open with Fargo, sunny, 64 degrees, Sunday, rain.
Well,
High
down
70
today.
weather.
My phone says 64 right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we heard it.
Hello, King. Good morning, King.
Morning.
Good morning. Hi, Jolene.
Hi.
Hello, Cindy.
Oh, crap.
What's the matter?
Oh, somebody left.
Cindy left.
Something happened. Well, Grant, did your dad try Oreos and red wine? Oh.
Not yet.
There's
Oh.
Cindy. She's back.
There we go. Morning.
Good morning, Cindy.
Morning, everybody.
Morning.
Hello, Hip. Good morning.
Morning.
How's Ing?
Getting better.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Did you work this week, Hip?
I'm going to.
This coming week, you're going to work. Did
Yeah.
you last week?
Nope, not at all.
Okay. Did you take some time off, or were you was the plant closed?
No, I take vacation.
Okay. Well, good. Good for you. Well, if you've been trying to get the bulletin or something like that today, our church internet is not working properly. I'm connected through my phone's hotspot, so our typical way of doing things on Sunday morning didn't work this morning, and so I'm kind of frazzled at the end trying to figure it out. At first, I spent the first 30 minutes thinking it was something wrong on my end, and now I've decided that it isn't. So anyway, if you've been wondering what's going on at the church, typical stuff, then it hasn't worked this morning. So
Are you able to get to the modem and unplug it and then replug it in after about 30 seconds?
yeah, I've done that. I've switched modems. I've switched computers. I've done lots of things. At first,
Okay.
the Wi-Fi was connecting to the internet, and it will connect to the internet for about 10 seconds every 2 or 3 minutes, but that wouldn't work so good for our Bible studies. So.
Yeah, I have feeling something wrong with the
You could
internet.
make a long Bible study at that rate, huh?
Yeah. First, I thought I would go home to do Bible study, but then I thought, oh, I've got my phone. I can make the hotspot work. So it saved me driving home and driving back. And
Well, I just grabbed the prayer sheet and the bulletin and printed them off a Dropbox. So
yeah, they would be yesterday's versions.
oh,
So
Yeah, I didn't see any changes, so
usually I make the final editions on Sunday. And so the Sunday editions are still sitting in my computer Dropbox because Dropbox can't connect to the internet to make this the sync. So,
Yep.
so the printed copies here will be accurate, but the copies on the Dropbox are from yesterday.
Okay.
So anyway, you guys are probably the ones that would be most likely to be affected by that. So I wanted to mention that to you. Well, how about your personal Bible study this week? Anybody want to share anything that was meaningful to you, that you found helpful or inspiring or challenging?
You got 3 days. All that, maybe. Yeah.
Today is the last Sunday of our summer quarter. And so if you haven't picked up a new Bible study guide, we do have them here and you can get one this morning or whenever. So I hope that you'll pick one up. That would be the Bible study then for next Sunday. We'll start there. Also, before I forget, I don't know, what's it say on the top?
It says fall 2020.
That would be it.
Okay.
Before I forget, what was I going to say? Oh, yeah. Depending on how you connect to our Bible study and prayer time, our Bible study on Sunday morning, our prayer time on Wednesday, starting on Wednesday, there is new login information that you need to use. The password is the same, but the login information is different. And at this point, it looks like that will be good through the end of the calendar year. So that's true for both the prayer time on Wednesday and the Bible study on Sunday morning. Today, you logged in with the old login information, but the new information will start on Wednesday. And so I do have that in the bulletin, and the web page will have the direct link that you can click, and then it will take you automatically to Zoom. And I don't know how you connect to our Zoom meetings, but depending on how you do it, you may have to make an adjustment. Okay? Any questions about that? If you have questions along the way, don't hesitate to call me or ask. I may not be able to answer, but I can work with you and we can probably find an answer fairly soon. So don't ever hesitate to ask if you have connection trouble. And you probably remember that today is our annual church meeting, which is a pretty important one, especially today. It's not always the case, but today our church meeting will discuss some important issues, and we'll also be dealing with a recommendation from the revitalization team. So there's some pretty important stuff. Scott is the man in charge, and I'll be doing baseball chapel, and I won't be done with that until I'm back to the church until about 12:30. So you certainly need to go ahead and start the meeting without me. The way we planned to do lunch was to have people bring their own lunch, but maybe you want to go to Hornbacher's or some place to get lunch and come back, and that's perfectly okay too. So that's what's happening today in our church meeting. Just a real quick reminder. Hi, Sean, welcome. I was just saying, Sean, that our login information for Wednesday and Sunday morning, starting this coming Wednesday, will be different.
Okay.
And so it should be on our website. So if you want to keep connecting with us, I'm sure you'll know what to do with that. So
Okay, thanks for the heads up.
yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Always happy to be here.
You get a gold star for the person who travels the most distance.
It's really far from my living room.
Oh. Well, I did offer to let you share anything that you got from your daily Bible study this week. Anybody want to share anything?
Do you have an outside service or inside?
We'll be outside, but
Okay.
we'll start at the usual time,
Okay,
which is 10:30.
okay, I'm early, so
Okay.
I'm a little early.
There's Karen.
Yep.
Karen? Answer?
Okay. One of the things I thought about on the material that we have, asked the question, what would your prayer life look like if you were able to overcome your biggest roadblocks on a regular basis? And the thing that stuck with me was, what are some roadblocks to my prayer life? And I had not thought about that. I had not used that term to think about my prayer life, the term roadblocks. And so that was good for me. I thought, well, probably my biggest roadblock is a lack of disciplined planning. Prayer often takes kind of the come as it can get there sort of approach in my life. And I don't know that I have a disciplined, planned prayer life. And that was good for me to think about a roadblock in my prayer life. So that was something that I found helpful. I need to think about that more. What are the roadblocks? That might be the first step in determining what they are, and I need to take a deeper look at them to discern more accurately what the roadblocks are. So anyway, I found that to be a challenging question for me. Anybody else?
That's interesting because I mean, prayer is the hardest part of it for me, I think, because of roadblocks.
Okay.
I don't know, I think early on, people were always, I encountered several instances where people were very outspoken about the fact that, I wasn't healed. It must be hidden sin. And I mean, I think, I don't know, there's just been things in my life that I don't understand why God allows those things, why God doesn't deal with people. I just feel like my prayers I have a hard time with prayer, a real hard time.
Okay.
Because it's also, God already knows the beginning from the end. It's like, I just don't understand it somehow.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I can sympathize with you, Charlene. I would say what I was going to say handicaps, but that's not a good word and that's not kind. And I don't mean that unkindly.
No.
What I was to finish my thought, my handicaps are more hidden than some people's handicaps. And I can more easily overlook them and just go on. What do I mean? Well, my shyness is a handicap. My introversion is a handicap. Those kind of fit together. My inability to relate to people that are very, very different than I am is a handicap. And where when you say that, Charlene, I think, Charlene, it's pretty obvious some of your challenges, and I can see how that would be very difficult to overlook because you face them every day, where I can sort of skip past mine and, you know, they don't really bother me too much until something happens that brings them out in the open again.
Well,
And
but I mean, it's not even so much my challenges. It's just like, you know, early on I was kind of, you know, the issue that it's my own hidden sin that causes that God doesn't heal me or something. And I know better, you know, but I mean, it's like, it started that negative feeling, I think, about why, you know, why God answers some people's prayers and not others, or, you know, it just, it's, I think what started my, you know, and you read books about miracles and things and, you know, well, why, you know, why, I mean, you know, I don't know that some of those even really happen. I mean, I just don't understand, you know, or like,
no,
you know, and it's like you know, all kinds of things that you pray for that just don't happen, or that don't have the outcome you like, or, you know, that you could see would be good, or, you know, it's, I don't know. It's just, prayer is a real challenge for me. That's.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm with you, Charlene.
Me too, Charlene. As you're talking, it reminds me, years ago, one of my cousins was going through breast cancer, and she was going to one of those churches that was telling her and her family that if you just have enough faith, you'll be healed.
Yeah.
And so when she died, it really rocked her family because they thought, well, it must have been our fault. We didn't have enough faith.
Yeah.
And I think we can't hang our prayer life on the effects. We just have to hang our prayer life on God. That's it. He tells us to do it. He tells us he wants to be in communication with us. And that's all we know, right? We don't know why some prayers get answered exactly the way they're prayed, and some don't get answered exactly the way they're prayed. But if we hang our faith on the effect of our prayer, our faith is going to fall apart the minute that the prayer doesn't seem to be as effective the way that we want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm with you, Sean, because I try real hard not to be thinking about the results of my prayer or even my work, either one, because it's really in God's hands. If I'm going to be faithful and obedient, I will do what God has instructed me to do. And prayer is a very big part of it, and he demonstrates it. And what I found with prayer is that not necessarily do I get my prayers answered. Matter of fact, I'm a little disappointed at times, matter of fact, very disappointed at times about the results, but it changes my attitude. And it's just absolutely amazing what effect it has on me when I'm diligent about praying.
Because even Jesus, when he said, "Take this cup from me," it wasn't answered.
Yeah.
If even Jesus has a prayer that God was like, "I can't do that one," then who are we, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good reminder. You know, it's a good challenge to really, like, you know, focus on just praying, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's really hard sometimes, like you've been saying, when it's like, but I'm praying for this one thing, or I'm even praying for a better prayer life, and that doesn't seem to be working. So
Is it, well, let me just state it this way. I don't think it's wrong to pray and to be thinking, to be not expecting. Say, Lord, you know, I want this or that, or I think this would be great. I'm praying for it, and I keep praying for it. And then I may try to do some things that would be helpful to accomplish that request. So I ask God, I do what I can do, but I'm really not expecting the answer that I want, or at least I'm not thinking it's, maybe I'm thinking, well, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. Is that putting too little? emphasis on, the outcome. I'm just, that's,
I think the thing that we can expect is that no matter what, God's going to work for his glory and the benefit of his kingdom, right? So no matter what the outcome looks like to us, we can rest assured that it's going to be for his glory and the ultimate good of his kingdom. So I think if we rest in that, I mean, maybe that's the outcome we're praying for. I don't know.
so what you're saying is, by my not expecting the kind of results I'm asking for, that's probably okay.
I think so.
I would like the results I'm asking for, but I don't know the whole picture. What you just said is just excellent.
Yeah. I also think that prayer is maybe more about our relationship with God than it is getting things changed around us.
Yeah.
The connection, how do we have a personal relationship with an eternal, all-powerful creator of the universe being? I mean, how in the world can that, what telephone line can make that happen? And I think the answer in large measure is the prayer telephone line. That's how I get in touch with that all-powerful, eternal creator of the universe. And so prayer isn't so much about accomplishing something, it's about connecting with someone. And that, I think, that's what makes me able to bare my heart. And I think that's what Jesus does in the garden when he says, take this cup from me. He bares his heart. And then he is reminded, but really, I want your will, Father. So we'll keep going. So in some ways, if I let my circumstances push me away from prayer, I'm cutting the communication line that makes my relationship with God more important in my life. I don't know if that makes sense, but
yeah,
I think
I remember even being told one time in a prayer meeting, well, some little thing I asked somebody to pray about, and they go, well, that's too hard for God.
Oh,
it's just, I don't know. It's just been really weird, the kinds of things that have happened to me in Christian circles that have just, I think, caused me to have a hard time, I think,
You need new friends.
James, are you volunteering?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Sure.
Oh, shoot.
well, Charlene, the bottom line is when you share openly like that, every one of us are saying, we get that.
Yeah, I'm saying, preach it, Charlene.
We have those feelings too.
Yeah.
I know we do. I know we do. Well, I know I do, and I think that's common for all of us. I hope that is some sense of comfort. And
it just keeps reminding me of what we really pray for, or what our real purpose is,
And who it is that teaches us about prayer. Like you said, there's so many misconceptions, and people will say wrong things. They have you have a bad sense of what prayer is all about. But the disciples said to Jesus, can you teach us how to pray? And he did. So it's like, that's the one who teaches us about prayer is God. We often get it wrong.
Right.
Yeah, well, we certainly want the Bible to guide us. I think that's one of the reasons the Psalms are so precious to people, is because they are prayers that are written out. Often they're prayers that are written out, and they're very raw, they're very real, and we can read them and say, yeah, that's me. I can get that one. Oh boy, that's that one I need. And I think that the Psalms should help us feel safe in saying anything we need to the Father, I think they can. So
But-
that's encouraging.
Yeah.
Matthew 7 also says, ask and it will be given to you. Everyone who asks receives. If you ask for a fish, you won't be given a snake. And I feel like I've asked for a fish a lot of times and ended up with a snake. So Matthew 7 really doesn't help here
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah.
Well, that's because you're not a parent, Grant. When you get to be a parent, I'm serious. When you get to be a parent, you will find out that your
Yes.
kid is absolutely convinced that they know exactly what they need, and you hear them and you understand why they want that, and you say,
No.
and they don't like it. They hate your guts. You don't love me. And they storm off. And the easiest thing in the world would be to say, come back here, I'll do it, okay. And you realize that is not my job. My job is to do what's best for them, and they might never get it, but that doesn't mean it's not my job. And I say that from experience, Grant, because being a parent taught me that I can trust God when he says no, and I can be thankful. Oh, thank you, Lord, that you told me no. I'm so glad you know better than I do what I need.
I get that and I recognize that principle, but why does Matthew 7 not say, ask and it might be given to you? Everyone who asks might receive.
I agree with you, Grant.
Yeah.
I've just always struggled with that because I know
Yeah.
I read it and it sounds so certain, yet I recognize that it's really not the way, it doesn't happen that way.
But you don't know what you need.
Go ahead.
The thing is, I don't know what I need. I think I know what I need, but I really don't know. It's like the example that do give up with a kid. Does a kid really know what he needs? Not always. Not often, maybe.
Not usually. Yeah, I think if he said you might, we'd be saying, well, I guess this one didn't, God must have been busy. Maybe he had his microphone turned off, or, he was on mute, or.
Just think what humans could do with that, to intimidate people. Like I said, people tell you, well, that's too much. That's too big for a dog. Yeah, that's too much. They could just really control, and intimidate people and do all kind of things.
They already do.
Well, they try,
Like I said, you need new friends.
Well, Jesus said to pray that God's will be done. So if you're praying for that, you're always going to be answered. It's always going to be.
I get nervous about praying for God's will because I think it's not going to work out well for me. And it may appear that way, but in reality, God does give good things. He doesn't give me a snake. It may look like a snake to me.
Yeah.
In actuality, what we usually are asking for is a snake.
There you go.
Because we don't know any
And
better.
we can't recognize it when we get the fish instead.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I think I'm with Grant on this. I hear what everybody's saying. But I mean, let's go back to the example of my cousin again. She died and left behind 3 little kids and a devastated husband. And to think that that's a good thing is a really, really challenging thing. To think that that's the fish and not the snake is the hard thing to think about. So it is a struggle. And sometimes it's like, well, it was biology. Cancer is sometimes just biology. And there are times when God chooses to intervene miraculously and times when he doesn't. And it does feel very snake-like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that it's wrong to say, this is the way it feels to me. That's what the psalmist's doing.
Mm-hmm.
God, where are you? You're letting our enemies win. How can you let that happen? God, where are you in this? I think we can be honest, and we need to be honest. That's what prayer invites us to do. But the bottom line is God is working so much bigger than we are that we can trust him in things that we'll never be able to see.
I can trust that he can redeem the situation. I think that's what I trust, is that he can work it for the good, but not, I don't know that I'm quite there where it's he intended that for good.
Yeah. And that goes back to the role of sin in history. You know, why would God allow sin? Well, one reason that it's there is because it gives the backdrop to the glory of God so we can see it more clearly. And does that make sin somehow good? Oh, no, it doesn't. Does that make the bad things that happen somehow good in themselves? No, but they are something that God can use for his glory, and he can redeem them. I think you're right, Sean. How does the Lord want to redeem this for his glory? And I think that can be valuable. In a family that loses a mom, God can redeem it in many ways that can be valuable for many who to see and to appreciate. So, well, I see in my timer that we have 8 minutes left, but this discussion is very, very good, and I don't have any regrets about it at all. I think it's just really helpful. So thank you, Charlene, for being honest, and everybody, not just Sean, Charlene, Grant. I know I might come out sort of pompous. Here's the grandpa speaking about all the value of being a parent. If I came out that way, I apologize. I don't mean to. I don't think I think that way. It's just that I learned that lesson so powerfully as a parent. It truly changed the way I thought about my relationship with my Heavenly Father. And so that's why I say it like that. And that it probably wasn't a very kind way to say it. So I apologize for my unkindness, Grant. That wasn't fair to you. You're
I'll never have children as a result.
you're a teacher of middle school kids. What do you need?
The only offense to be taken is assuming that I'll have children someday. So let's not.
But that was the offense that I kind of took, and I'm looking, because for those of us who did pray to have children and it didn't happen, Pastor Dude.
Yeah.
Cindy's in that group as well.
I know. I was looking at Cindy going, you know what? You pressed a sore spot there, sir.
But she did get me.
No, I didn't. I really didn't take it as an offense, honest.
If there's anything going around in our society right now, it's be careful what you say. Anyway, well, real quick, we have 6 minutes left. Real quickly, well, I'm going to assume that you know the account in the Bible about Jesus' transfiguration. If you don't, that's okay. I'm glad you're connected here. Don't feel bad. Don't feel like, well, you must be a second-class Bible student if you don't know that. So please don't be insulted by my assumption. But I'm going to make that assumption, and then I'm going to ask you what kind of lesson, what kind of impact, how does the account of Jesus' transfiguration, how does that affect you? And how has it in the past, or as you thought about it for our Bible study today? I must admit, it's not been one of the stories in the Bible that has had a big impact on me. Maybe partly because I have a hard time identifying with it. I don't know. Our lesson writers start out by having us think about situations where we were awestruck And they use the example of standing at the edge looking over the Grand Canyon, or going out in the middle of the ocean and seeing only water everywhere and waves, and just how being impacted by that scenery, that powerful place can hit us. And they use that as a way of helping us think about how powerful the transfiguration would have been for the disciples. And that was helpful to me. I think I probably have sort of skipped over that and thought, I don't really get this. It doesn't seem all that important, so I just don't really pause much over it. But if I stop and think about that, I think, in some ways, Jesus pulls up the blinds and opens it up and lets them glimpse a picture of his glory, and then shuts the blinds back down and says, okay, now guys, we need to keep going about the business. And that is interesting to me, that he would do that, and how Peter, James, and John probably did carry that with them for the rest of their lives in some very powerful way, much like we might carry with us standing and looking at the Grand Canyon, or some other situation where we would be struck with awe at something so big and powerful and special. Anybody else? What could we take with us from the Transfiguration? It happened a long time ago, but what could go with us?
For me, what I always take is the forgiveness of Moses, in a way, because Moses had been told, you're never going to come to the promised land. And that here he is. So for me, it's always, I love that moment where Moses is there. He made it, and it's like this forgiving moment for me.
Okay, uh-huh.
Oh, that's great.
That's great.
Yeah, I had never thought of that. Anybody else? Maybe another picture of grandeur is the presence of Moses and Elijah. Do you need to underline eternal life? Babe, here you go, right there. They didn't die. Their bodies aren't around, but they aren't dead. They're still in existence. And when we run up the blind and take a peek into heaven, we can see people who have walked by faith, and now they're with the Father.
I really like these peeks into heaven, as you call them, and we get those glimpses occasionally through people, through the world around us. In this case, it was through Jesus directly. Those mountaintop experiences, so to speak, are great. They give me hope. They give me inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't live on the mountaintop, and you can't just only seek those kind of experiences. But when they do come, boy, they're pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting that Peter says, hey, let's build a tent and stay. So that's kind of what you're saying, James. We sort of want to live there. This is great. Let's just stay here.
Love Peter.
Yeah.
Peter's my kind of guy.
He just throws himself into everything.
Yes, he does.
Whether it's like building a tent or denying Jesus, he just throws himself right into it.
Yep.
Amen. Well, our time is almost gone. Let me pray. Lord, thank you for Charlene's honesty and the honesty that we can share together. Lord, we do admit to you that prayer is a mystery, and we at times find ourselves stumbling over it and maybe even afraid of it or even angry about it sometimes. Lord, you know what's going on in our hearts. We put them in your hands, Thank you for glimpses of heaven that come to us in the Bible, and in this glimpse of the transfiguration of Jesus, how powerful it was for the disciples and how we can take a piece of that for us too.